hey, I'm sorry, your piece was stolen by pirates. It's a hard phone call to make to somebody and really explain, but it happens.
Welcome to the Krista Hermanson Design Podcast. I am so delighted today to be visiting our dear friend, Jim Gavriel at CF Furniture. And CF is one of our secret sources. Designers have a whole Rolodex full of secret sources, and they're the people that we lean on to provide us with terrific quality pieces at the right price point, depending on our client's budget. So Jim and I are going to talk today about furniture quality, fabrics, kind of thinking of it as upholstered furniture 101. And I know we're all going to learn a lot today. Jim, thank you for joining us. That was quite
the intro. Oh, man, I'm honored to be on that Rolodex.
So one of the things that I end up doing a lot of education with our clients around is how to select a quality piece of furniture.
Thank you for doing that. So when we were retail, you'd have people come in and they've been through the gamut. They've been to 5 or 6 commission stores, and then they come into ours, and you can just see like they're just exhausted. They're just beaten. And it's like, just sit down, let us help you. But what we learned is that the more education we give them, the more confused they'd get. It's a lot of information because they're like, oh, I like this sofa. It's like, cool. You've got 300 fabrics. Do you want a bench cushion, or do you want 2 over 2? Do you want top stitch? Do you want welt? And you've lost them.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sell something to somebody and not give them the options and have them come back and go, I wish I would have known I could have done a bench cushion. So you have to do your due diligence with them, but you know at the same time, their eyes just roll back and they're like, I'm done. Like I just want a sofa. It's my 5th Saturday out shopping. I don't want to do this game anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what we'd kind of educate them on a designer. It's like, listen, you're going to give up how many Saturdays of your life? Just hire a designer. You're going to be so thankful for it.
Our parents' generation purchased furniture very differently than our generation does now.
Absolutely.
And so that, I think, also becomes part of the, level of quality that you're choosing when you're selecting furniture.
You bet. Yeah. We're buying now maybe for 10 to 15 years. People are moving way more than they used to. My parents are still in the same house they were in 1990, whereas I've probably been in 5. I think it's every 7 years that Canadians tend to move. So when somebody says lifetime, in the late 90s, they were serious. They wanted lifetime. Whereas now lifetime is 10 years, maybe 15 years.
Right. When you're purchasing upholstery, I think it's a decision that will anchor the room, first of all. It's what I call one of those anchor decisions.
Yes.
Right?
I like that word.
Yeah. It is the foundational piece that you will choose. So I typically will choose like the size and shape of a sofa or a sectional for families first. We might show our clients 2 or 3 or 4 combinations of upholstered furniture in their living room. Then they'll say, you know what, I love this furniture plan. We want a snuggle sofa, so let's do a sectional because that's where the family meets, and we want to snuggle with the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Life is going to happen. So we'll tend to choose that big anchor or foundational piece first.
Right.
And I do agree that depending on the lifetime you want out of that sofa, then you'll make an appropriate quality decision.
Correct.
Based on what that family's going to use.
You bet. Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to how many kids there are, age of kids, the dog. Is the dog on the couch, or do they know the dog's on the couch? Really, is what it comes down to. Exactly right.
Dogs love couches, don't you know?
It's true. Yeah, and we got a lot of decisions were made around the dog being on the couch.
Yes.
So that's more what we're here for, is to kind of help people. Yes, there's still a budget, but let's figure out the best possible piece that you can get for that budget and explain to you why. And even go a step further and say, well, here's the budget. For just this much more, here's what you can get. Is it important? Is it worth that jump? Or do you want to stay at your budget? No judgment either way, but at least you educated them on what the possibilities could be.
I love that. Yeah. And that's what we do when we're working with our clients, whether it's in the construction side of our business or in the furniture and furnishings side of our business, is we literally put our arms around them and say, I gotcha. I'm going to guide you through all these 1,000 decisions, you know, single bench cushion, double bench
Right.
cushion.
Yeah. We do in linen, we do in performance.
Welts,
Yeah.
you know, welts, no welts, French stitch, you know, top stitch,
You got it.
you know, all the decisions.
A lot of the warranties can get tricky, right? Like they can say, oh, it's got a lifetime warranty, and then it's limited or it's parts only, so it doesn't include the labor. It's easy to give you a $2 spring. You're paying a tech to come out and spend $500-600 to unwrap your sofa and put that spring in. That's not covered under warranty. But again, that's not common knowledge. You know, unless a consumer knows to ask that part, how would we even have a clue that's a question to ask? So
I love geeking out about furniture with you, Jim.
I think it's, again, 26 years of it. There's a lot of geek in my head right now. Yeah.
If we could talk in general terms maybe about what a kind of base minimum quality piece of furniture would, how it might be made.
For sure. So if you look at these guys, the inside of that, like underneath the fabric, you've actually got hardwood. It's kiln dried. It's mortise and tenon joinery. It's double doweled. I can stand on that frame, and I'm not going to make a dent in that thing. It's going to last me as long as I ever want to have it. Whereas you get some that's particle board. You know, you put your knee onto that thing and you're going to hear it crack and creak. A lot of people, their seats start to sag in their sofa. They've had it for 10 or so years, and they're throwing it like garbage. You know, the seat's all saggy. So they're thinking it's the foam that's in there. It's actually the support that's underneath the foam. That's what's giving out.
The frame that is holding the cushion in place.
You bet. It's just got these like elastic, it's called Pirelli webbing. So it's just like a lawn chair basically. But it's elastic. So anything elastic loses its elasticity. That's a hard one.
I don't want to talk about that, Jim.
So then
I don't want to talk about the loss of elasticity.
Right?
It's not a beauty program.
That's fair. So on a sofa, when that starts losing its elasticity, that's what starts to sag. It's not exactly the foam, it's the support underneath that starts to kind of give out.
Right.
Whereas these guys, when you get into the really well-made, kind of the way they were heirloom quality, the way our parents used to kind of have theirs, which is why they still have their sofas. It's 8-way hand tie coil. So it's like a pocket coil in your mattress.
Okay.
So there's those coils side to side and front to back, and each coil is actually tied by hand to the frame. It's never going to sag. It's never going to squeak. It's never going to give out. It's a lot of labor involved. It's a lot more for the materials and the raw materials they use. So it's going to cost a lot more than what you see when you're online.
Yeah, and these are all terms that as designers we're familiar with. So like an 8-way hand-tied coil is sort of the gold standard in terms of furniture construction. And then you talk about mortise and tenon joints and double doweling. But can you describe what a mortise and tenon joint provides in a piece of furniture?
You bet. So anytime you've really got a 90-degree joint like that and you're putting a screw into it, that screw is going to strip at some point. So mortise and tenon, you basically got a gap here and a tongue here, and it just kind of slides in. You've got a wood on wood, and it's actually inserted into that piece. It can't loosen, it can't drop. There's physically no way you can break that joint. Nothing can give. But again, it takes a long time, takes a lot of skill. Not a lot of companies want to put that money into it, nor have the craftsmen who can actually do that kind of stuff anymore.
Right.
So there's maybe, 3 to 4 companies we deal with out of our 300 that actually do that kind of construction.
Okay. So if you're looking for a certain level of quality and certainly a certain longevity in your piece of furniture, those are the kinds of things that you would look for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Double dowel. So you've got essentially that, just 2 dowels kind of sticking in. Again, so you've got no way where that wood's going to break or sever. Whereas if you're using screws and metal corner blocks, it's going to give out at some point. It has to. The wood's going to strip out. The screw's going to fall. We've all had it happen. Where you've got that double dowel, nothing's going to strip. Not always do we need that high end of a sofa, though, right? So we've got every company we deal with kind of has their own niche. That's up to us to really help gauge with a designer what product and what price point is going to be best.
Cool.
So just really having those education moments with the client in here and explaining the pros and cons to, whether it's piping, whether it's top stitching, whether it's feather fill, whether it's foam, whether it's a bench seat. We get a lot of people want that bench seat. It looks great. It's nice and clean. There's no gaps or anything. The downfall is, you're going to have a couple of wrinkles. You have to. When somebody sits on one side, it's got to have the flex in the fabric to kind of even out. But when nobody's sitting on it, you're going to have a couple little dimples in there. That's just natural. That's not a flaw.
Right. And a bench seat for our podcast listeners is a one long continuous base cushion on your sofa, which is a really clean, tailored look until someone sits on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you've got, if you get one of those, I guess, online sofas with the bench cushion, that foam is going to be so rigid.
Is going to be doing that.
Oh yeah, your seam's going to turn. It's going to be like a teeter-totter when you sit on one side. The other side's going to fly right up on you. So again, there's certain vendors that even we know to stay away from when it comes to a bench cushion that's done well. You really got to make sure that you're getting good raw materials that are going to settle. Make sure your stitching is good. Make sure the fabric is actually going to hold its place and not roll on you. So there's a lot that goes into it.
There's a lot that goes into it. Purchasing a sofa is very much like purchasing a custom tailored suit.
It's so true. Yeah, I totally agree. Of course. Yeah, and each one, like you say, they've all got their pros and cons. Your linens and cottons, they're gonna, linen's gonna regulate the heat. It's gonna, only get softer with how much you've washed it, that kind of thing. Whereas you've got performance fabrics now. Everybody wants everything to be kind of kid proof and husband proof. So they've got these performance fabrics that they try to wear as much like leather as they can, but they still give the warmth, the comfort, and the design ability that you guys can kind of still make that work in the room. So those, a lot of polyesters, a lot of polyester blends, but you can literally spill a glass of red wine on there and scoop it right up. Linen, not so much, a little more effort. So again, just knowing who's in the house, how it's going to be used, and educating them on which fabric is going to be right. I don't want them to buy a linen sofa and not know the pros and cons to both. Same thing with a performance fabric. Yes, it's going to be easy to clean. It may pill. That's just the nature of the polyester fabrics. So making sure that they can really understand both spectrums, make an informed decision with you guys.
Oh, I typically try not to take clients to fabric showrooms.
Smart call.
Because, their eyes get really big.
And the fear comes out.
See, and I walk into this room and I just rub my little hands together and think,
your eyes are excited. Yeah. Mine are like, why are we standing so close to all these decisions?
So as we stand here surrounded by all these gorgeous fabrics from various fabric manufacturers, I would love to talk a little bit about something called COMs, because this is a term we throw around in the industry all the time.
Yes.
And COM means?
Customer's own material, which was like a swear word 10 years ago. It just didn't exist. Nobody wanted to deal with it. No vendors were equipped to do it. Whereas now, you guys kind of leading the industry, leading the vendors in the decisions they're making and the options that they're giving. And now all of a sudden it's almost unheard of for a vendor not to offer it.
Yeah. And COM, for our listeners who are not familiar with this term, literally means you and I, or really, I guess, my client and I, choosing a fabric and saying, yes, we want this fabric on this particular sofa frame that manufacturer A might produce. So we purchase this fabric, have it shipped to manufacturer A, and then they install this fabric as the upholstery finish on that sofa. So we literally are choosing a frame and then a fabric to go on the frame, and the manufacturer will put them together. So that's what COM means.
You bet. And it really does make a piece one of a kind. When you've got millions of fabrics to pick from on any given frame, the odds of somebody else having that, it just isn't something that's actually going to happen, right?
I remember a client, it was a new client, and I went out to meet them for the first time, and they had bought this linen sofa that they were so frustrated by because it was all feather fill. So literally the base cushion and the back cushion would show every time anyone sat on it. And it would also just like get flattened, right? So the way to do, to liven up a feather base, or cushion, is to beat the heck out of it.
Absolutely.
And she was so frustrated because she had bought this linen sofa. She loved the look of it, but did not understand what it was going to be like to live with. And
Exactly.
that's where we help to keep people out of the ditch.
Yes. Yeah. You got to check for OCD in the house if you're buying feather for sure, because it
Yeah,
will drive
you
you
got to
nuts.
have OCD.
Yeah.
Well, and you got to have OCD to want to beat it all the time.
Absolutely.
Like that. Yeah. Or you want that kind of, lived in English manner sort of look.
Yeah. And that's a discussion that we like to have in here, because again, I don't want anyone to have buyer's remorse. So if they want feather, yes, it's cozy, it's comfy, it's going to give you a little hug when you sit down. It's going to take a little bit of work just to maintain it. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to last forever. It's not like a petroleum fill. Feathers aren't going to disintegrate on you. They're going to be there for as long as you want to have them. But yes, you're going to have to fluff them.
As long as you want to beat them.
Exactly. So a lot of the fills now, where they used to be, or they are in kind of those generic sofas, just a petroleum-based, so oil-based foam. One, you've got the off-gassing. Two, it's decomposing the second that you buy it. It's already starting to kind of dry out and crinkle out. Everybody's taking a cushion casing off and seeing all that fun yellow stuff fly around. The fills now, they're all soy-based. So they're all sustainable. They're natural. They're made to last 25 years, whereas petroleum, you're getting 10, maybe 12 years out of it. So you've got that. You've got the feathers, the natural goose and the duck feathers around it. The foam underneath, you've got kind of a core, and then basically a duvet cover wrapped around it with the feather. Which is going to give you kind of that nice hug when you sit down. Yeah. So the fills they've come a long way from what they were, thanks to you guys and the demand for it. So the stitching on the casings around it, on these guys, it's all hand stitched. So it's back to the way it was 30, 40, 50 years ago, where it's literally a human being stitching them by hand. Mm-hmm. Some of the other pieces we have here, not always do you need that quality. Some of the other pieces still well made. It's more machine made. So push through, you're going to see, more crooked lines, that kind of stuff. You get an architect or an engineer in there, they're not going to love that chair. They're going to find that from a mile away. So again, just knowing your clients, knowing what their needs and their wants are.
And those petroleum foams can break down very, very quickly. Yep. I've seen them collapse inside of a year, probably depending on the age of the material by the time it actually gets installed in the sofa.
Yeah, and you have no idea what kind of chemicals they've sprayed if it is made overseas. You don't know what kind of chemicals they've sprayed on the inside of the foam. So on the suspension's gone, the foam's broken down. It's not cheap anymore. You're still in for a couple grand even for one of those ones, and then it's gone within a year and it's just going to the landfill. So it just doesn't do any good for anybody there.
I think it's important, Jim, to just talk a little bit about how we rely on you guys to make sure that the products that we're delivering into our clients' homes are pristine and perfect.
The perfect install.
Yes. Yes. The perfect install.
Isn't that a dream?
That is.
We have Daryl. Everybody needs a Daryl in their life. And we were lucky enough. I think everybody in the industry probably knows him.
Everybody loves Daryl.
Just the sweetest human being, but also a trained furniture repair guy. The hard part is really, we've got material handlers. So they can accept the box, they can inspect it, make sure this leg isn't blown to pieces. That part anybody can figure out. Looking at this piece and knowing what a flaw is versus natural characteristic, that takes a trained set of eyes. That's something that only really Daryl can do. He can go through it. He can not only spot them, but he can also touch them up. So he's going to go through and he's going to deluxe it. Every piece of furniture that leaves here is passed through his desk, passed through his eyes. So perfect install 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that, because as a designer, we get to installation day and everybody's so excited because all the new furniture is arriving, and we've all been working hard on probably the construction and the transformation of this home. And then all the finishing touches, the beautiful furniture pieces show up on installation day. And without a Daryl, it
goes sideways.
Things go sideways. Sometimes people cry.
It's true. It's usually they've waited.
Tears.
They've gone through delays. They've gone through overages on the budget. They've persevered through everything, and they just want the furniture in, and they want the project wrapped up. You guys want the photos of it. Everybody wants a happy ending. Mm-hmm. It's it takes a lot of people to really make that happen. I don't think sometimes clients know how much stuff goes on behind the scenes just to get a piece to arrive and to have it perfect for them. Mm-hmm. Whether a truck has been broken down, whether a highway's been closed, whether there's been reselections and delays in fabric arriving, that kind of stuff. By the time it finally gets here, we get to install it. The worst thing that can happen is you get there and something is broken. right? And now we're making another trip out to the house. They just want to feel settled and kind of nest at home and enjoy it. So
Yeah.
having a Daryl on our side, it just makes everybody smile.
Yeah. I think that makes us officially members of the Daryl fan club. Hi, Daryl. We love you.
Oh, he's going to like that part. We're going to feed his ego real well. I'm not going to live that one down. Have to get him a button now.
No. I'm remembering this beautiful custom area rug that we had ordered for a client that had a really long lead time. It was a hand knotted rug that had to come from Europe, and it arrived finally in Canada, except there was the Halifax port strike.
Oh, fun. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it got tied up in the port strike for, I think it was another 3 months. And I was calling the supplier every week and saying, okay, like, do we know what can this is in? Like, can we get somebody to get it out of the can? And we could not get it out of the can because it had come across from Europe on the boat.
It's not like you can just get another rug made. That ain't happening.
No, not if you've already been waiting for 9 months for production on it. Anyway, so the client called me and said, like, are we ever going to see this rug? And I said, yes, but I'm sure the question in the back of their mind was like, did the order ever actually get placed?
100%.
But these are the kinds of things that we run into, and sometimes it's just beyond explanation. Like, it's like, this is so out of my hands.
Oh, it's true. We've had some delays with some of the import companies, and of course our admins, they check every week to make sure stuff is on time. And last week we got an email notification saying it's not going to be May, it's actually going to be September. And they go a step further and they say, I need to tell my designer why it's going to be September, because their client is going to ask them.
Yes.
And the rep replied and said, pirates. So the admin came to me. She's only 25. She's quite new still. And she goes, is this real? Or is she just joking? I'm like, no, that's 100% real, honey. Like, that's, that's pirates. They've got plants that have caught fire. They've had trucks that have run off the road. They have pirates out there that steal containers. So there's a lot of things that go into getting furniture here. Again, using the designer where I can phone you and say, hey, I'm sorry, your piece was stolen by pirates. It's a hard phone call to make to somebody and really explain. But it happens.
That's a new one on me, Jim.
I'm used to port strikes. I'm used to highways washed out. The pirates one was the first for me. But I guess it makes sense. Clearly, Tom Hanks is in some ship trying to rescue our little mid-century media console table for us. But yeah, just all the things that really go into making the stuff here. And then hopefully it arrives in one piece.
In one piece. And if not, we have Daryl.
We have Daryl and his fan club.
Yeah. My dear sir, thank you so much for having us in today. You are delightful as always, and it's been very generous of you to spend your time with us and with our listeners. So I'm sure we'll see each other again soon.
I hope so.
And I hope there won't be any pirates involved.